we manage about 350 long-term rentals. We manage about 10 short-term rentals and about 3,500 to 4,000 association units. And then we also have a building and maintenance department as well. So the biggest thing what led me to LeadSimple is a lot of the, we were using Monday.com. We had somebody help implement that, but what I saw the problem was it was more of a checklist. So there wasn't any automation to it. We still needed to, it was still labor intensive and very heavy on the labor side with our employees. So then what I did was I reached out to other, top performers on like the property management Facebook page, and a lot of them were using LeadSimple. So I'm like, I don't want to recreate the wheel. I'm going to copy and paste what other top performers are doing, and I'm going to try and utilize that. So then that led me to LeadSimple. And then I reached out, and then Eric, I had a good conversation with him, and he kind of explained what it looked like. And I was like, okay, let's do this, because I didn't want to, operations, it's such a labor intensive thing, and it takes a lot of time for our employees. So I'm like, I need to get that dialed in. More so on the rental side, associations and building and maintenance, we kind of got that covered for the most part, but it was more so on the rental side. There's just so many different steps it takes. And so, so then I've, started to work with Angie on that. You, of course. And then what's been great about that is realizing we have our systems in place and our process in place, and then once we have started to implement those, it's just more of a seamless process to make sure to get from start to finish. Yeah, so as far as like the 350, we have other team members for like the association company and building and maintenance company. So we have about 21 in the office and another 5 building and maintenance team members. But as far as our rentals go, it's really 3 of us PMs and then a remote team member. And so so we were kind of at the capacity, and that's where I wanted with LeadSimple, if we can automate some of these things, then and ultimately, we can even manage more and have more profitability for the company. We just started with, that's our first remote team member, and she is a leasing coordinator. So what she does is she asks the prospective tenants some preliminary questions, and then what she does is then she schedules the showings. And so what we're working on with LeadSimple is with our process, it's going to give us good transparency, because there's tasks that she'll be able to look at, and then once we finalize our process, then we'll do a training session so she knows exactly what to do. But then that's going to help is we have transparency, but then she has a clear picture of what she needs to accomplish and those tasks that are outstanding. And I just want to give our staff too an expectation of what they know exactly they need to do, because just like airline pilots, what do they all have? Surgeons, they all have checklists. Why do you have checklists? Because if you have a process, you're going to get predictable results. We want to have our owners and our tenants have the same experience each time. And if we're just doing that on a paper and pencil or even a spreadsheet, people are going to miss things. So it's like we want to have that outlined with LeadSimple, and then we're going to have predictable results. We're going to have a better experience for our residents, better experience for our owners. And I also think that our employees and staff members aren't going to feel overwhelmed, and they're not going to be like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do this, because it's all a process and it's all documented. And also another thing where it works with, it's integrated with Buildium. The other problem we had was with Monday is it wasn't integrated. So that's why it was such a manual thing where you got to make these changes in Buildium, and then you mark that as complete. But now with LeadSimple, it's automated, and then it also syncs and communicates with Buildium too. The problem that we struggle with, and I think a lot of management companies do, is training, because it's just like, hey, this is what, we've been doing it for so many years, but getting back to the basics as far as like, hey, this is what we need you to do. So what our goal is with LeadSimple too is it's going to be a better transition and a training manual ultimately. Hey, these are your 8 workflows that you got to understand. And, we might have some team members who are the leader of this workflow and others who are the leader of this, where they all work together. But at the same time, we can then go through that training and say, hey, this is what we use, this is the system, and then we can really train to that. So it just gives us more, rather than being like, oh, Monday, this platform, these are the changes. It just gives us clear and concise, basically a training manual to use for future employees, whether they're remote team members or whether they're local in person. I never want to push anything on our employees. I want them to, as an owner, I think it's important for us to create the process. But once we have the process, we should be going to our team members like Katie and Doug and saying, hey, this is what I feel. This is our process. Do you guys see any issues with that? That's what I did after we've done a couple, process implementations. And what I've done is talk to our team members and say, hey guys, this is what we've worked on. Do you guys see any issues with this? Nope, they're good with it. And so once it's implemented, then we'll actually put it live, and then we'll get some feedback from them. And we'll also probably get some feedback from the rental owners and the residents as well. And so once we get that feedback, then we can tweak that and tailor it, towards each individual process. I think the big things for me, as far as like with me as the owner and operator, actually, handling some of the system, or as far as handling like the process, like implementation, I think it's important because then I know like what my team will be doing. And then I can actually, train people on that as well. And I just think that, one of the biggest issues with some businesses is the tribal knowledge. So I could, pass that off to somebody, they could do it, but then if I need to change the process and they leave, I'm going to have no clue how to do it. And then that process, there might be an error, which will then result in other issues, down the line because it's a workflow. So what we need to do, I think, as owners is at least know how the process works and how to, the background of, LeadSimple. And then what we can do is then we can delegate that. But if that person leaves, then you can insert yourself too. So I think that's important as well, is to make sure that you know how to use it, and then you can delegate it. Because once somebody leaves, like even in accounting, like we've experienced that, where somebody leaves and then nobody else knows what to do. So then you're kind of in a fight or flight mode, and that just doesn't put yourself in a good situation for anybody involved, whether it's your employees, because then they get overwhelmed. So it's always good for multiple people to know how to do it. That's not to say they're going to do that on a day-to-day basis, but at least you have some stability and structure then. And then in regards to doing it with an implementer, we've been using Angie, and what we've really liked is the fact that we go through our process and then we're constantly questioning our process, like, is this the best process? And I'll also ask Angie, like, does this make sense? What do other companies do? Because again, I don't want to recreate the wheel. If there's something I didn't think about, I would like to, potentially utilize that. So there's a lot of things that we've had our processes and we've utilized, but there's some things that I've picked up on that if I didn't have that conversation, I wasn't putting the time and work into it, our process would probably look a little different, and I don't think it would be as effective as what I think that ours is going to be. It does take time and energy, but a lot of good things in life do take good time and energy, so.